Okay, here's the review for our first test in pre-calculus this year, school year 24-25. The topic is basically functions, so almost everything that we have to do with functions and its notation is going to be on this test. Okay, so you have all the things that we need to be able to do and know, right? All of it looks very mathematical, very notational. So let's look at some of these problems and see if we can figure it out. Okay, so here we have the graph. The dashed line is F, so there's the graph of F, and the solid line is G. So which of these x values have a y value less than 0? Right, so we're looking for a y less than 0, and at the same time we're looking for the f graph to be below the y graph. Right, when is the f of x less than or equal to g of x? Okay, so let's see where that happens. All the places where the f of x is below. Let's look at that first. So f of x is below your graph from here all the way to there. Okay, so this is the interval from -1/2 to about +4, where f of x is less than 0. So we know that -1 is not going to be part of your answer, and probably neither is +4, since those are both on your axis. Right? Let's see if I can erase this. There we go, that's better. So your interval is from -1/2 to +4. So it looks like the only answer is going to be when x equals 2. So let's see, when x equals 2, sure enough, the y value is less than 0. So f at +2 is less than 0. And also at +2, the f graph is below the g graph. So both of those things are true at only +2. Okay? So yes, f is below g at -1. That's true, this part, as well as at 4. The f is below the g, but the only time when f is negative is when x equals +2. And so that would be our only answer there. Part number 2 is the only one that happens to be true at all times. And number 2 says we have two functions f and g. Write an equation for this composition, and then write an equation for the next composition. Okay? So the first one says take your g function, and put it into f. Okay, so that's what our first one says, is everywhere that we see an x, we're going to replace that with x minus 2. So this is what it means to have f of g of x. We are replacing the g equation into the f function. Okay, and we'll math it out in a second. The other one says take the f function and put it in for g. Okay, so this is what our other one says. It says take 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 and subtract 2 from it. Okay, so this is our g of f, and this is our f of g. Okay, so we'll pause the video, do all that math, and come back and check the answer. Okay, so there is your f of g of x, that composition in red, and then we have g of f of x, that composition is in blue. Okay, our next one says write the domain of this rational function as an interval. So hopefully you know with rationals, your denominator cannot be 0. So you set your denominator, whatever numbers make the denominator 0 have to be excluded from our work here. So hopefully you see this as a factorable quadratic, and the numbers that multiply to give you -20 and add to give -1 are -5 and +4. Bless you. So there's a minus 5x and a plus 4x. So we get them together to give you a minus 1x, and then minus 4 times 5 is a minus 20. So those are your factors. Okay, so all of your quadratics that you ever get from me will be factorable. So x cannot equal positive 5, or x cannot equal negative 4. Okay, and it probably shouldn't say interval. It probably should say, no, yeah, as an interval, right? So it's not an inequality. So which of these numbers is to the left, negative 4 or positive 5? Negative 4. So we're going to have negative 4 on our number line. Well, that's the negative 5. Negative 4. So we're going to have an open circle at negative 4. And we're also going to have an open circle at positive 5. Okay, so how we write this as an interval, right? So this is what it asked us to do, is we're starting from left to right, which means we go from negative infinity to negative 4 with a parenthesis. Right, so that's all the stuff to the left of negative 4. And then we have the stuff in between negative 4 and positive 5. So we have parentheses negative 4 parentheses positive 5. And then we have all the stuff to the right. So we only have 2 numbers that we can't have on there. I don't know where that went. Negative infinity to negative 4 with negative 4 to 5, and then from 5 to infinity. So these are the 3 different intervals that we're going to have when we exclude negative 4 and positive 5 from your answer. So we have everything else except for negative 4 and positive 5. Okay, so we have 2 exclusions, which means we have 3 intervals to talk about. 2 exclusions, 3 intervals. So here's number 4. Here we have a graph of f. So this is our f graph. And g is this equation. What is the value of f of g of 5? Okay, so we want a value, so our answer is going to be a number. Right? We have a number in, so we're going to have a number going out. First thing we have to do is evaluate g of 5. So we're going to use our equation to evaluate g of 5. Okay, the g is given to us by an equation, so we plug 5 into your x, right? This is part of your function notation. 5 minus 10 is negative 5. So now I'm looking for what is the value f of negative 5. Okay, so whatever our y value was here from the g, that gets put in now for the x value for f. So f of negative 5, let's see, f of negative 5, here is where x is negative 5, and we come down and we find an open circle. An open circle. So an open circle means there is not a y value associated with that x value. So we're going to take away the equal sign, and we're going to write is undefined, or potentially does not exist. Okay, so never equals undefined, right? A value is undefined, but a value is not equal to undefined. So that's one of those semantics that we got to get used to. If your answer is undefined, then you don't have an equal sign. You just have the words is undefined.